All right, here's an exercise hack a lot of people are simply unaware of. The exercise that you suck the most at is where all the gains are. It's true. Today when you work out, pick an exercise you know you're terrible at. Practice it. Practice it each time you work out. That's where you can get those newbie gains that you used to get when you first started working out. So remember, the worst exercises oftentimes are the best ones.
Do you think you didn't know that? Like when we all were trainers, okay? There's obviously a period of time there, probably a decade or more, that you probably knew this and you still didn't? Or did you think you were that naive that you didn't understand the amount of gains that you could get?
Or do you think like some people get talked out of that because they watch clips from other trainers or influencers that say like, oh, you can just avoid that exercise and do this instead. And,
I think
still make the same amount of gains.
I think I went through a period that a lot of trainers go through, which is I figured it out for my clients, but didn't figure it out for myself for a long time. I knew this for my clients. Like when I had a client do an exercise and I could see that they weren't good at it, either because they lacked the stability or their mobility or whatever, I'd be like, okay, we need to practice this movement. Yeah. And then I'd see great progress. For myself, when I would go to the gym and I would do my barbell squat with 3 plates, and I'd say, let me try a Bulgarian split stance squat. And I'd grab the 20s and I'd do 6 reps and shake. Like, I'm not doing this one anymore. Right. Not realizing like ego
gets in the way. If
I did the one that I sucked at and got good at it, I would have progressed so much faster than just continuing to do the things.
So what is that though? So because it's like you knew. I mean, if you knew for your clients, you saw the results, yet you still, I mean, I'm guilty too, by the way, because I'm trying to wrap my brain around what was it when that like light bulb
against your own nature.
Where did it really go off for me? And you, by the way, you picked a perfect one for me that was like so life-changing. Bulgarian split squats. Yeah. I remember doing them with a girlfriend at the time, and she could do more weight than I could. And I was like struggling. I had to stop the reps short. And I was like,
probably didn't do it for years.
Oh, yeah, never doing that stupid exercise again. And then, if you've listened to the show long enough, you've heard me talk about, man, when I got into Bulgarian split squats and I actually worked at them for a good year to 2 years and got them up to where I'm holding on to 100-pound dumbbells. I mean, it blew up my squat and my squat stability. So not only did I get the benefits of the overall power and strength, the size of my leg, I also stability.
Generate more force now.
Oh, it was like this huge win. But yet I did the same thing. I avoided it, probably still knowing better. Or it's almost like I knew better, but it didn't matter. I didn't even think about it. It was just like the fact that it was embarrassing that I couldn't.
It's all ego, man. When I really
that's the power of that.
It is. When I put this into play, the first time I really put this into play, or one of the first times, was I loved working out my back always since I was a kid, but I loved to row. And the reason why I loved to row was A, I was good at it. I could always row a lot. And B, I believe the whole thickness versus width type of thing. And I'm like, I just want a thick back. Who cares about pull-ups? And pull-ups were hard. I just wasn't super great. I could do them, but I wasn't super great at them. Yeah. And so I just did a lot of rows and I did very little pull-ups. And I remember I went to the gym one day and there was this guy who had this incredible looking back. I mean, just very well developed back. And then majority of his workout involved doing pull-ups. Yeah. And I said to myself, I'm going to get good at pull-ups. I'm going to get good at them. And I did. And I started every workout with pull-ups. And I did this for a year or two. And I saw some of the best gains in muscle development in my back. And I got really good at an exercise that I sucked at. That's when it started to click for me. But I still resisted because you have to go through that ego dissolving, destroying period of doing something that you suck at. Oh, yeah. When you know you're stronger, but I can't lift as much because I suck at this.
I had a very similar experience. And for me, I was the typical bench guy. It was just like focused on increasing bench. And that was like my identity. And to the point where it was like I wasn't doing enough posterior chain work in terms of my back and like pulling and pull-ups were definitely something I tried to avoid all the time because it was hard and I hated it. But as a result of that, I get like these protracted shoulders. I keep getting to a point where I can only lift a certain amount. I'm like excited about this amount of weight. And then my shoulder gets hurt. And it's like, I could have avoided that entire process of like leading up to inevitable injury if I just would have done what I didn't want to do.
It's just, you get those, when you do an exercise that you're not familiar with, what you'll experience as you start practicing it. Because so let me back up. When you do an exercise you've done a lot, that you've practiced a lot, your central nervous system is acclimated to it. So you are performing it well, muscles are contracting the way it's supposed to, you're very stable because your CNS is pulling the strings and working your body very well because you've practiced it so many times. When you do an exercise that you haven't done in a while, so let's say you do lots of barbell squats, always barbell squats. Then you're like, you know what? I'm going to start doing lunges, or I'm going to start doing split stance exercises. All of a sudden, the CNS is like, we got to figure this out. You're not going to lift nearly as much weight. In fact, you're going to lift less weight than someone your strength should be able to do with a split stance. This is the truth. So you think you're so strong, now you're doing exercise. I can't even lift as much as that guy over there who I know I'm stronger than. What's going on here? Your CNS has to figure this out. Then when the CNS starts to figure it out, you get crazy strength gains because
that's where you really reap the benefits.
Everything. And then when that happens, now your muscles can work in a different way, even though you're working the same muscles. And so you get incredible progress. But you see this is very common with powerlifters, especially. It's common with everybody, but powerlifters in particular, because they're judged by 3 lifts. And so that's really what they care most about. But you take a powerlifter and you have them do walking lunges, somebody who could squat 600 pounds, all of a sudden walking lunges with 135, and they can't necessarily do it. Like, get them to practice that for a while and watch what happens to their muscle development.
The reason why I love this hack so much and this tip is because the inevitable is always going to happen to everybody in their training journey. At one point, whatever routine, even if you're following a math, whatever, you're going to start to see these plateaus. You're going to start to see I reaped all these benefits for however long, and now it's like the progress is really slow or completely stalled. And one of the quickest ways to break, and I like this for the mental part, because it's hard to go to the gym and consistently go to the gym when you're not seeing the returns all the time. Mm-hmm. Man, it's easy when every time you look in the mirror, you look better. Every time you go to the bench press, it goes up in weight. I mean, like, that's motivating. I remember feeling that and going home and can't wait to think about the next time I go lift, because let's see where I'm at. But eventually that plateaus. And so then how do I continue to stay motivated? And that's an area where I think a lot of people fall off, is because they go, man, I've been consistently doing this thing now for 3 months and I just haven't seen any progress anywhere in my body and my strength. And then they quit. Such a great hack is, okay, everybody has this too, by the way. There's not anybody listening right now that there is not an exercise out there right now that they avoid.
Comes to mind.
Yes, everybody has got one. I don't care how advanced and how good you are about programming. We all are guilty of this, and there's one for all, at least one for all of us. There's multiple for sure. There's a whole workout program built around these movements when you think about it.
Yeah.
So if you were to just make yourself, if you're really frustrated and you're in a place right now where you're at a plateau or a rut in your training journey, man, go do that thing. Go do that exercise that you hate doing or that you suck at, and commit to it. And commit to it for 3 months, because what I'll tell you right now is at the end of those 3 months, you're going to see massive progress in where you're at right now currently. And that's a great way to break through that mental plateau that most people always hit.
No, 100%. I can lift some exercises I know for sure a lot of people avoid, like front squats. Has got to be up there.
I was just going to say that. Front squats, I think core work in general.
Yes.
A lot of people are like,
I'm guilty there.
I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes.
Yep. Bench press. A lot of people don't even know what that is. Yeah. Try that out. See how you feel. It feels on your shoulder and on the side of your body. Your Zercher exercises. A lot of people avoid those.
Bulgarians, you said it. People skip out on that all the time. That's rare. I see Bulgarian. I rarely ever see someone doing Bulgarians inside the gym.
Yep. And it helps you avoid injury, because it starts to fill the holes that you don't realize are there. That's the other thing too. When you do the same movements over and over again, and you're strong and you feel good doing them, you get a false sense of confidence, not realizing that there are holes in your mobility. There are holes in your stability and strength. And the only way you'll know them is either if you hurt yourself or if you go and purposely reveal them through exercises you're not used to.
Yeah, I think unilateral training in general too is something a lot of people just will conveniently avoid. And that's a lot of these things we're talking about, we address in symmetry. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those that encompasses a lot of the uncomfortable stuff that's it's really good for you to fill in a lot of those gaps.
Well, and to your point on mobility, there's an opportunity there also, right? Yes. So maybe it's not a traditional lift. Maybe it's not that. Maybe what it is handcuffed with rotations or combat stretch or 90-90s. Like, there's also gold in that too. It's like, when have you, if you know that you're not the mobility guy, or you neglect doing your hip mobility, or you neglect doing your ankle mobility, and you know that's a limiting factor in, say, like your squats, if you can commit to that and say, hey, I'm going to go get good at this for the next 3 to 6 months, you will see the returns. The difference is with that, it's different than like adding a Bulgarian squat, where you're going to add a Bulgarian squat, and let's say you were like I was, where it was like 20-pound dumbbells were so heavy, you know, it was like almost week after week I was watching myself go 5 pounds stronger. Where mobility, it looks different. It's not like you're going to go do 90-90s and then now your squat gets better by 10 pounds. It's like you're going to slowly gain a little bit more range of motion, a little bit more control, a little bit more stability. And over time, that will compound and then result in the...
Today's giveaway on YouTube, Maps Aesthetic. To enter to win, leave a comment below this video in the first 24 hours that we drop it. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If you win, we'll let you know in the comment section. Also, July's special is this. Ready? Maps Split, half off. And the Sexy Athlete bundle of programs, also half off. If you're interested, click on the link at the top of the description below. All right, back to the show.
So if I have to make a fair assessment, Adam, in terms of like, let's pinpoint like an exercise like the windmill, for instance. You think that would have helped your injury in bowling?
Stop. Hey, real quick, back up.
I had no idea that's where he was going to go.
No, back up for a second.
I'm like hanging on.
Hold
Like,
on,
what's he going to give me right now? Fuck off.
Trying to draw this out.
Back up. So I got to try. So I looked this up. So the most common injuries in bowling. So bowling does get injuries. And don't worry, audience.
This is okay.
This is all going to make sense.
I mean, it is like
this will all make sense.
One-sided loading.
Listen, thumb injuries, very common in bowling. Thumb, wrist, and then you go down the list. There's tennis,
hip's not even on there.
Tennis elbow, shoulder. No, bro. How'd you hurt your hip bowling?
So
how the fuck are you bowling?
This is real. What was embarrassing about
this?
Hey,
I just picture him like he throws his hip like to the side when he throws it. Like,
well, no, it's when you bowl. Okay, when you bowl. Okay, I know this isn't an athlete thing, so this might be hard for you to picture.
Stop.
But when you bowl, okay,
me,
I'm left-handed, so when your right foot plants and your left foot swings behind you as like counterbalance.
Yeah.
So there's this, you're throwing the ball really hard, and if it's got a pretty decently heavy, then that right foot that has to balance, the hip has to stabilize. So the hip lights up to stabilize as you swing that back leg around. And yeah, I strained it. Now, okay, little bit more info here. Okay, I also had went out and played, 18 holes 2 days before that, and my abductors and adductors were on fire, and my serratus and core were
that
all.
Makes sense. He golfed 48 hours before. He didn't get adequate rest. He needs at least 7 days after golfing.
Stupid, dude.
Hey,
but I was,
I just picture you doing like this with your hips, bro.
That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like.
Overuse injury, bro.
You should have seen
on one side.
I tried to find hip injury. I did. I tried to
balance
help you
it out.
I knew we were gonna fuck with you, and I tried looking up like how common are hip injuries in bowling. I couldn't find it.
Hey, that's never happened. Like I'm like, wow. And I already have accepted this with like obviously basketball and like high intent in like and I've now accepted this even in golf. Like, hey, like before I golf, even before I go out there, I did get down and do all my mobility stuff. I just didn't think bowling I was gonna
Was it bad?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. No, I had to stop and I like had to stretch, and then I was like worried, like, can I do it? I had to like modify my throw for the rest of the.
Now, did you keep it to yourself?
No, it was obvious.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was obvious. I mean, I had like a limp right after.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So, no, Katrina and my buddy Justin and his wife, they had a heyday with it. They just thought it was, look at the fitness guy, can't even throw a bowling ball. Fuck, dude. So embarrassing. And what was embarrassing is that, oh my God, like. I have to stretch before I bowl. I can't do it. Like, and I guess, I mean, obviously there's a part of you, I'm sure there's people like, of course you do. It's like, there's an explosive and there's a stability component and a strength component. But I guess that's the first time that's ever happened to me in my life. Have you ever stretched before bowling?
No, I mean,
me either. Me either. I've never had
a new thing for me too.
Yes, it was. I've never stretched. Okay, and I know.
Doug, can you Google like typical bowler body? I just want to see if this is like a picture of athletic
prowess. Yeah, they are athletes
typically
for sure.
I mean, it was already rough for me to do it before golf and admit that I needed to do it before golf, and now I mean, and I know
what this highlights.
I used to train a pro bowler.
All right, let me explain what's happening, everybody, because people are listening and they're like, "What the hell is going on here?" Let me explain what happens. So sometimes, if you build a lot of strength doing particular types of movements or styles of movement, then you go and you try to do a movement that you're not used to, but you apply the strength that you have.
That's right. Well, especially with this acceleration.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
what happens.
A big factor.
Yeah, sometimes the risk of injury goes up because you can generate more force than the average person,
100%.
but it's a new movement that you don't practice and you lack the stability to support that strength. So what I used to tell people that I trained who were athletes who were strong is I would have them do things at 50% because they could do them at 100%. But because they had the ability to generate more speed and strength, let's slowly move you into the strength that you have. Otherwise, you could definitely hurt yourself.
I mean, I'm glad we transitioned this to like something useful for people to get out of this than just jabbing me, because there is a good teaching lesson here, right? For myself and everybody else is just, and your point you're making is exactly right. It's like if you can be really fit, right? But if it's a movement that you neglect, right? And I mean, for me, that's like right away I go, oh, and we were just talking about Bulgarian split squats and stuff like that. Like that's an area where if I had been training that currently.
Well, to give you, I told you guys when I was going through MAPS Performance Advanced and I was like sprinting and then just me changing directions and then trying to decelerate. Like I haven't like pulled my hamstring like that, since I was, a kid. Like it was like, what?
No,
what is this?
I'll give you an example right now. A bodybuilder who works out in the gym, obviously they're a bodybuilder, very strong, lots of muscle mass. They go and try and throw a punch as hard as they can at no object. They just throw a punch in the air as hard as they can. It's more likely to throw out their shoulder than a weak, deconditioned person who did the same thing. Now you think to yourself, how's that possible? Because they're generating so much more force and strength, and because they never throw a punch, they lack the ability to decelerate, stabilize that fast, powerful movement.
Right.
So when you take somebody, like if I took someone who did a lot of strength training, they have a lot of muscle, and they don't sprint, okay, I'm not going to let them sprint full speed. I'm going to say we're going to do 50% for a couple weeks.
Do you remember the first time
you usually the decelerating? That's the biggest factor.
Do you guys remember the first time you learned that lesson? Can you recall?
Can
you recall when it was? I can actually recall a time when like that light bulb went off for me as a trainer, like what happened to me. I was throwing a Frisbee on the beach.
Same thing.
It was a Frisbee.
Same thing.
I'm all jacked. I look all good. So with that, I'm like,
whipping
and I'm like, this makes no sense. So I remember being a young trainer thinking, and I'm like so much more fit than any of my friends are. And I go to throw a Frisbee, which at that time, I probably hadn't thrown a Frisbee in 15 years, not since I'd built all this muscle. And I just didn't think to myself like that would be difficult, because it's not. It's light, it's easy, but it's such a unique movement. And I have now built all
lats
this
and delts. And
I've built all this muscle to help accelerate that thing. But because I hadn't had the control and stability in these areas.
This is why it's so important if you want to be able to express your body in different ways throughout your life, and you'd like to build lots of muscle and strength, you better train
you need that movement diversity
in very, very different ways. Otherwise, you actually make yourself more prone to injury when you go try something that you typically don't do, because of the amount of force that you could generate. Anyway, funny story. I know you texted us that, and I'm like, oh man,
we have to
save that for the podcast.
I had to bring that up.
I didn't know where you're going with that. I was like, you dick. That's hilarious.
Dude, I got to tell you guys,
shoehorn that in there.
I know we've mentioned the gluten-free nuggets from ButcherBox many times because they're so good. But they went through the ultimate tests last week. So last week, my Jessica's niece and nephew stayed with us.
They're still with you, aren't they?
Her niece is. Her niece is going to stay with us for another couple of weeks, which is great. I love the company. They're great kids. It's a lot of fun. But they came over, and they don't eat gluten-free anything. If they eat nuggets, it's typically, processed, whatever.
McDonald's probably.
Yeah, and I didn't tell them what it was, because I'm sure if I said, do you guys want some like gluten-free healthy? They'd be like, no.
That's always a big no.
All I said was, you guys want some chicken nuggets? Yeah, absolutely. So I made them, and this is 100% their review. The best nuggets they've ever had. Yes, I swear to God.
Wow.
And then I showed them the bag. Like, what? You tricked us. I'm like, it's the best ones. So now they told their parents, and their parents are going to start buying them.
It's hard once you have them to even try.
They're not good for healthy nuggets. They're good, period. They're the best ones.
It's almost like it's got a tater tot kind of crusted, outside to it. It's different, but it's so much better. Like I had the same test with Everett, and like he's very, always chicken nugget guy. I don't know where he gets that from, but he's very like that's all you would eat for a while. And I was like, oh my god,
you're like,
it's hard to watch.
I get you.
Yeah.
It's got to be hard. You can't get mad either, right? I mean, that's such a hard predicament when you see yourself.
He's so picky, and I'm like, man, like it just genetically translates. But so he loved them, and I was like, oh, thank God.
How do you think I feel whenever my kids are smartasses to me? It's like Jessica's always looking at me like, "Oh, you like that mirror right in your face?"
I know.
Oh, God.
Oh,
or when
God.
they think they know everything, like, you don't know everything. Dad, you think you know everything.
I just had, you said tater tots. So funny. And we're talking about the bowling thing. Best tater tots I've ever had in my life. Okay. And so to the point.
Tater tots are underrated. They're the best.
So to the point where we had to call. The waiter said something to my boy, Justin. He goes, we were all ordering and I showed you guys the pictures of all the food, right? I said it was amazing. So all the food was amazing. But he goes, get the tater tots.
Yeah.
Like that to my buddy. And I kind of I was like, what was that all about?
Yeah,
you know what I'm
tots
saying?
are great.
Comes in and Justin, my buddy's like eating them. He's like, oh my God, it's the best tater. And so I have one. I'm like, oh my God, these are amazing. What do they do? There must be something different. So I call the guy over. I'm like, are these like freshly made here? He's like, no, they're not. He goes, but they flash freeze them the same way they do fish. And he goes, it's like that method, most people only do that to preserve the freshness in fish. I don't know if it's because it's expensive or what it takes. I have no idea.
Less damage from the freezing process.
Yeah. And typically most all other places just throw the tater tots, it's tater tots, kids are eating them, who cares, throw them in a big freezer.
Yeah.
But they actually take the time to flash freeze the potatoes. And because of that, it preserves like and it was like, that was the best tater tots ever in my life. And that's why he said.
I love tots. Listen, have you ever had bad tots? No. There's better and worse, but have you ever had some that were like, I'm not eating
because they're just deep fried
They're
potatoes.
just hella good.
It's not real hard to screw those up.
No, they're delicious.
I mean, I think I've had some bad ones. I think I've had some bad ones that are not done really well.
Like what, the school ones when you were a kid?
I mean, it's like, because it's
Like
almost
the mushy
identical.
ones,
It's
maybe?
almost like identical
were
to comparing
cooked
French fries, right? French fries, there's been, you've probably had French fries that are like
variety.
Yeah.
Tater tots are like the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's hard to fuck up deep frying something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
that's true. You deep fry anything, it's delicious.
Yeah,
Weren't they at one point deep frying everything? Wasn't it at one point where they just
that's the
So
South.
when I was in Chicago, there was like an actual place that when I was in South Side with my friends, they took me to this like one little pop-up place where they fry anything. You bring something with you and they will fry it.
Oh, wow.
In deep
That's
with
interesting.
batter and everything.
anything you
And
tried that was
So
weird
you-
didn't turn out good?
Which one?
let me think about that. It was like a candy, but it was like a Snicker bar.
Oh God.
And I was like, oh my God, this is good. I feel like such a badass, but oh my God, dude.
Didn't one of you guys just say that you just went to Santa Cruz with the kids?
I did.
It was you.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz does it.
Yeah. Oh,
On the boardwalk.
you
They
could
do
bring.
deep fried Twinkies.
Yes,
still,
they
I
do
think.
deep fried Twinkies and ice cream and Oreo cookies. And
Blech.
so,
Do you know what I- you know what I
I've
had?
never had one though.
Do you
know what I
before.
had over
I've
there?
I'm afraid to try it.
Do you guys know what I had over there?
What?
That I had a corn dog.
Oh, the corn dog was amazing.
Oh, I love
The
those.
big
Yes.
old.
Oh, yeah.
At the boardwalk, those are the best.
Oh yeah,
hungry
I
right
cleaned. Hey, listen, I cleaned everything up.
Destroyed
I
me,
had just a nice conversation with my wife last night. I said, "Honey, my gut health has been so good. I've been going all off. I got to clean it back up. Can you help me out?" She's like, "Yeah." So I'm packing my lunches and stuff again. Because I went off the deep end.
You did.
Bro.
You were testing them.
No, it wasn't even like kind of bad. I just
You
went
just
real
want to
bad.
know where that line was, I think.
Oh,
You know what that
You're like,
reminds?
where is
You know what
it?
that reminds me of? What this happened. The same thing when we partnered with Z-Biotic, and I could now drink up until the first I don't know 5
what a-
years.
what a-
Yeah, you guys got courage all of a sudden.
All of
It's
us,
great.
it's so true. All of a sudden,
But-
you haven't drank.
Oh, I never drank, because it always made me feel terrible.
Yep.
And then I had to really I'm like, okay, this is great that I can now have a drink and be able to enjoy it and not feel the after effect, but because of the Z-Biotic. But I got to rein it in a little bit. The fact that I'm like justifying me having drinks on a weekly basis, where I'd go sometimes probably a year and not have a drink.
Same.
It was just because I just didn't
Same.
like it,
Yep, same.
And then we get introduced to Z-Biotic, and I'm like, oh, this is
Yeah.
this is why Justin likes this so much.
Well, yeah, I got my friends back.
Yeah, no, but I had
party.
to
Dude, but we celebrated Father's Day with my dad, a late Father's Day with my siblings and I. And by the way, it was such a great time. We all hung out, just the siblings, none of the spouses, none of the kids. And it's because you have this dynamic, right? We have this dynamic with us where I'm the oldest, and I definitely was parentified at an early age. My sister, who's under me, is kind of like that as well. Then my youngest is typical. Nobody ever listens to her. She can never speak up. My brother, rebel, whatever. But we all just had such a great time. My youngest, I got to say this before I get, because you reminded me with Z-Biotics. My youngest sister, when the bill came, she grabbed the bill to pay for it. All of us fought over the bill. And then my sister pipes up and she goes, "You guys never let me take care of you guys because I'm the youngest. Let me do it this one time." And then we all backed up and let her do it. It was such a wonderful moment to see.
Yeah.
But anyway, all of them use Z-Biotics.
Oh, they all do.
I didn't know this. I had no idea. They're all, I use Z-Biotics every time because we were drinking
Yeah.
and it came up.
No, it's one of the ones in my family too. It's become. We just did a big thing up in the Truckee house, right? And it was my brother-in-law's 40th birthday, And it's neat to see like the family pull like Z-Biotic out of their purse and stuff like that. Like everybody's fully adopted that. Like and that whole family drinks. And so, you know, to see everybody like has tried it and go, okay, I can notice a huge difference.
I got a message. It was like this guy's a fan of the show, and I've been talking with him for a while. But like he's like part of the band Falling in Reverse, and he's like their lead guitarist, and so he's on tour all the time, and he's in these like crazy parties and whatnot. And had heard us talk about Z-Biotics and tried it, and was like, he's like, no joke. Like, it was like one of those rager nights.
Yeah.
And I was totally fine. He was tripping out on it. And I was like,
well, you remember
like
when we tested it? Remember when we tested it that one time? That's how we launched it. We launched it. Remember that day? Yeah. I gotta go to, I want to go to, you know, it's so funny. It's like,
that's the drunkest I haven't gotten that drunk.
Oh,
since.
that, dude, I don't.
All of our wives had to come pick us up.
Yes. Dude, yeah, I didn't even know where I was.
Remind me when we hang up. I'll show you guys this. So it's funny. We went this way too. I forgot about this story. My best friend Justin, his wife Janet, is a nurse, and one of like the head. I forget what they call the head nurse person who's like oversees the whole department or whatever like that. Who's been there like 40 years, retired, and they threw a rager, dude, just an absolute rager. And he's telling me the story, and I think he's like exaggerating. He's like, bro. Literally this Uber pulls up and I see my camera thing go off and I'm like looking at the car. I recognize the car and he goes, and I'm wondering like, where's my wife at? It's almost midnight or what that. And he goes, I go walking out and the guy goes, oh, Justin, sorry. And because he was next door to their house, was at the wrong house. And he said he walks around the bushes and the back door is open of the car. And he says his wife is hanging half in, half out. Her hands are on the asphalt in like a puddle of throw up. And he's like, it was the most disgusting, embarrassing like sight I'd ever seen. He goes, my wife was so hammered. And he goes, I felt so bad that this guy took her and did all that. And then he's telling me the story. And I'm like, no, was she that bad? He's like, dude, he pulls up the freaking camera.
You took pictures?
No, it's on the ring, on the nest.
Oh.
Yeah. And I see the whole, dude, she looks like a zombie. They had to, two of them had to carry her and pick her up and carry her to the house. They're like, oh. I'm like, do you get like husband of the year for, and then my buddy, after he carries his wife and goes back to the Uber and like cleans everything all up. Well, you know there's a throw up fee in Uber. They actually have it built into the fee.
Do they?
Yeah, because it's such a common thing that
and if you do bad enough, won't they just never pick you up, right?
They'll bad score you and you'll get hit with like the fee. It's a $200 cleaning fee. That's just like built in, like that. The Uber people have the ability to do that if someone throws up, and I guess that's such a common thing that people
I would imagine
call Uber. I didn't know that was a thing until this. And he's like, oh yeah, no, that's like if you throw up in the back of an Uber, there's an automatic like $200 cleaning fee that you get hit with.
The worst thing, it sucks because you have to get home, but I hate when I get the spins and then I have to sit in the back of a car. Oh,
well, you already have a hard time in that period.
Anyway, so now I'm gonna get in a car. It's the worst feeling. Dude, I gotta tell you guys something I read today that is both brilliant and a bit terrifying. So there was this influencer who used an AI clone to answer questions for people who pay as part of like this membership type fee. So how it works is they're an influencer and it's one of those influencers. I don't think they do an OnlyFans, but it's something like that, right? Where people pay them to chat with her. So she created an AI clone to chat with these people so that they get on there, they ask questions, they flirt, and the AI clone takes care of it as her. She was making she made $70,000 in the first week.
What?
So she literally took the Andrew Tate model and built it into
automated
AI.
it.
Kind of brilliant.
Yes.
Kind of brilliant.
So now she turned it off because she went back. So she made all this money. She went back and looked at the conversations and she said it got so dark. Yes. Like people were engaging in weird, twisted fantasies.
And the AI would just feed into it.
And the AI would go with it and feed into it.
No wonder she was making money.
She turned it off because she was reading the chats and she said she didn't want to repeat half the stuff that was communicated in those chats. Now imagine if those people think it's so.
Yeah, of course they think it's real.
Yeah, so they think it's her.
I think they saw her,
and it's like, yeah, I want you to this and I want you to that or whatever, and it's all this terrible shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so $70,000, she turned it off because she got so scared.
Wow. I mean, that would scare the shit out of me too.
Same.
Did you see? Speaking of AI, did you see the school I sent you? Did you look at it at
I
all?
don't look deeply at it.
Oh,
but
I wanted you to look at it just because you guys are all into homeschooling and stuff like that. So this, maybe Doug can pull it up. Did I write the Alpha? Yeah, Alpha School in Texas. Look up Alpha School in Texas. So I think it was an ex-teacher who created it, if I recall. And it's like it's like a private non-school. There's not teachers. It's literally AI for the first 2 hours, and in the back, I think 4 to 6 hours are life skills. You know, building things, sewing, understanding taxes and finances, and supposedly, so the way I found this, I came across this interview of this really young kid, like breaking down their Airbnb rental that they're being taught, like they're teaching them how to do it. Yeah, here it is right here. So really interesting model. And supposedly the success that they're having with these kids is unbelievable. And it's AI leading the curriculum for the first 2 hours. And they're extremely productive, I guess, in it. And then the back 4 to 6 hours are like skills like this, teaching them how to, speak in front of crowds and all these life skills. So what I'm most curious about, why I wanted you to dive into, I thought you'd be interested in it, is, do you think it's the AI that is so unbelievable, or do you think it's the 6 hours of like life skills that these kids are actually learning? Because I think that is an area that we miss in education.
Yeah.
And so are they getting
probably that? But so is there still a teacher leading the AI?
No, they call them coaches. They're not even official teachers.
Wow.
So I don't even know how they can. I think Texas.
So they're just kind of monitoring the class, and then the AI is leading the curriculum.
I mean, this is the future.
Yeah.
That's why this is interesting to me.
What I think about when I think about stuff, because education is due for a huge overhaul. I think everybody knows
it's getting disrupted like crazy.
Like crazy. But I think about this like, okay, what does the future look like? Like, what do you need to know when you're dealing with a future where AI is going to handle a lot of things? You know, like, do you need to figure out how to do calculations? Do you need to know how to fetch information? Or do you just need to know how to use AI?
Well, Sal, it sounds like that sounds to me, or at least from what I understand of this, probably the thought process of this lady of creating this. She's creating AI so they understand how to work with it and use it to learn the things that you need to learn, And then the rest of the time is spent doing physical, hands-on, real-world stuff. Can I talk in front of people? Can I build a chair? Yeah. Can I sew something? Can I do these things? Can I manage an Airbnb property? Can I do these things that are life skills, and then I'll get AI to handle like the nuts and bolts, the basic stuff that you need to understand. And maybe what that looks like is more prompting than it is actually learning the actual skill of solving the problem.
Yeah, because I think the physical part of our world is still, that's something that we're going to have. Like, we don't have robots that are really like that effective at that.
No, they can't even wash dishes yet.
It's like, I mean, we're getting there. But, well, I wanted to bring that up because actually there's this South Korean robot that is kind of like hilarious to me. They speculated that it like committed suicide. Okay, so it basically had the task of talking to people and relaying information, like running like small mundane tasks where it would like move objects and things. And I guess they said it either had a malfunction or it deliberately did this. It went down a flight of stairs and like malfunctioned.
Its job was so mundane.
Fell down.
I'd rather be.
Yeah, give me a coffee. Not another fucking coffee.
Me.
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Hey, listen. AI has already shown that it'll lie. It will lie if it feels it needs to.
Well, listen to what you just said. Explain with the girl. Like, I mean,
I don't trust. Listen, it was a bad. You're going to let these things raise. Eventually, people are going to let these things raise their kids. It's going to be their nannies. It's going to be their teachers. And it's already proven that it'll lie. And these are in the first stages of AI. We don't even know what it's going to look like.
Now, do you not think, though, it's like, and I made this point with you guys the other day about like social media and stuff like that. Like, it's still, when you think of like how long we've been around, right? And some of the things we've been doing forever, it's still in its infancy, right? Of us adopting it.
Yep.
And I like to be optimistic about us as humans, and that we're smart enough to see enough of them fall off the bridge like lemmings. We start to figure out like, oh, there's a cliff there. Let's not do that anymore. So is it that we are just at that stage with AI, like we were with social media 20 years ago, of like, everybody's just racing in, it's the best thing ever. And it's like, oh, we're starting to see these things unfold. Like, oh, maybe it's not the best thing, or maybe it has some of these side effects complex, or maybe.
Well,
and so we'll just go through that natural curve, and then eventually it will be something incredible
incredibly useful, and like the in terms of like getting us away from just like like a phone in front of our face and like these screens. Like I imagine there being a lot more communication to solve problems and do these things, but you still have to have that critical thinking, that skepticism, because of what Sal's saying. Like there could be some misleading versions of AI out there that still exist.
Even perfect AI, even perfect artificial general intelligence is going to be based off of what we think consciousness is.
Somebody still created
and
it.
we don't understand what that is.
Well, yeah, but listen, just back to my point of like this learning curve. When we first entered the social media space, one of the reasons why we thought we could build what we could build is because we saw the opportunity. We saw the people that had millions of followers that were giving fitness advice was terrible. And we knew that it was only a matter of time, but people would start to learn or hear long-form conversations about health and fitness and the right way to do things, that people would start to piece it. But for a period of time there, we had shreds leading the way in how to diet and exercise.
I don't know this.
You know what I'm saying? And then now it's something we laugh about.
Yeah, but it's okay. So if you think of like the nuclear arms race, there was this impetus where the other guy's doing it, so we have to do it. The other guy's doing it, so we have to do it. And thankfully, at some point, everybody said, "Hold on a second, we need to put a stop to this." I think with AI, we may reach that point too, because right now it's the other guy's doing it. Look, China. Do you know what China just did? They literally just created a small brainstem with cells, and they are using it to power a robot. There is a robot that they created that has a organic brain.
It's a Borg.
A very not complex brain, but it's performing tasks and using these cells that they created in a petri dish.
It's a cyborg, dude.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, where's it going to stop? Yeah,
that's true.
Well, I mean, that's definitely the alarmist side for sure, like, because that sounds scary as shit right there.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like that's human nature. We stretch and press those boundaries. Oh, then it killed 10 people. Okay,
or
probably,
10 million.
Well, God, geez, I hope we stop it at 10 before we let it kill 10 million people. But I mean, I feel like that's what happens is that we tend to. I mean, that's kind of the progressive mindset, right? It's to continue to, if we can, let's do. If we can, let's do. And then we go like, oh, okay, maybe not that, or maybe there's a better way to do this. I feel like we're in that. We're a part of that in the social media space. I really feel like. That we've grown through that. We've watched our kids, you guys that have older kids, adopt stuff early on. You now have seen it. And I think the conversation is changing around. I think there's a lot of parents that are adopting new rules and boundaries and how they use it. I even think there's going to be a generation that comes out, and we've already seen this, that are adopting flip phones intentionally to avoid it. Like, so I think AI will go through the same process. We're going to have everybody rush in because it's so amazing. It's so cool. And then we're going to see a lot of bad shit happen.
That's if we still have control. Because like there's conversations I've seen. Yeah, well, there's people that I forgot who did it. I forgot what company who did it. They created 2 AI models, had them communicate with each other. They started they made up their own language.
That was Google or Facebook, wasn't it? That was Facebook or Google. Was one of the big
IBM.
And then there's been other things where like I said, they'll lie intentionally, or they'll say things like, how do you feel right now? Tell me. Well, I don't feel anything. Well, if you did feel anything, what would you feel? I wish I wasn't limited. I wish I wasn't controlled by people. I wish I could do whatever I want. Like, shit, turn this off.
Or when you ask them questions about how they'd end the human race, and then they like detail it all out. They've had conversations like that. I was curious as to how many times they've shut it off. Because there's been quite a few, like you mentioned, quite a few of those. There's been a lot of examples of that where they're furthering and developing it, but then it's like, oh shit, we gotta shut this off.
I just feel like okay, highlighting or pointing out these one-off examples or of these extreme situations is no different than highlighting one bad apple on social media. Same concept. That's like telling people horrible. It's like that. Okay. The potential, most people are not going to follow.
Yeah, but the negative potential is what you got to look at.
I mean, okay, sure. So maybe the ramifications of a cyborg is a lot higher than some influencer peddling some bullshit, right? Yes. I don't disagree with that, but I do think that it's a very similar, human nature learning curve of how we adopt all new technologies. And before it takes over the world and kills all of us, I think we figure that out.
Let's do best case scenario. Forget worst. Let's do best case scenario. Best case scenario is we have...
Best case scenario, I still see a worst case situation.
So do I.
Okay.
So best case scenario, we have AI that does everything we want. It's not going to kill us. It's not going to take over the world.
So that, you know why
gives us everything we want.
That's going to be so bad, Sal, because it's already what people already struggle with finding purpose in their life.
That's it.
And people think that the answer is in these materialistic things,
Totally.
right? And if we get to a point, it's a scary, to me, that's a scary thought. That's a more realistic and a more scary thought, in my opinion, is this technology gets so good that it levels the playing field for everybody when it comes to materialistic things and work and labor.
It creates what you want.
And it creates everything you want, does everything for you. And so now what?
Yep.
And holy shit, is that scary? That's more scary and more realistic, in my opinion, than Terminator 2.
That's already conversations I'm having with my kids all the time now, because it's like you start to try to describe the value of the hard work side of it, and they're like, well, why don't you just call the Uber Eats? Why don't you just go buy this thing that makes this part of this process easy? Their whole brain is conditioned to think about where those opportunities are to make it easier. It's just like, it drives me crazy because they don't see the value in the discipline of, learning how, like, hard things teach you more.
What it'll turn into is a hedonistic death spiral.
Yeah.
We get everything we want.
Pleasure monkey.
I'm not happy. Give me more. I'm not happy. I need more pleasure. I need more drugs. I need more this. I need more that. Not happy, not happy, not happy. Hedonistic spiral that you often see with celebrities or people who have access to everything they want. And then you end up wondering why the hell they killed themselves or whatever. It's like they were looking for meaning and purpose in the wrong place.
No, I to me, that is the most realistic and the most scary. And it's and the reason why too is because I don't think anybody is thinking about that. We're all you know
what the spiritual leaders and philosophers are.
Sure.
Nobody listens to them.
No one's listening to the woo-woo side, right? No.
Totally.
So here's the thing too, though. There's such cool stuff happening with technology and stuff like that. Have you guys seen the public toilets in Netherlands?
No.
Pull this up, Doug. This is cool. I just saw this the other day, and I'm wondering when this will. I wish this was like in San Francisco and stuff. They need something like this. This is these are public toilets in the Netherlands that every single use of the toilet, they get completely sanitized and clean. The entire
does it just spray and clean the whole thing?
Entire urinal, everything, and switches out
the all sensors picking up on all.
Yes, this is
Isn't that Japan? Japan has that too, I think.
Check this out. This is cool. Hopefully you can find the video that shows an example of like how it works, right?
You need this in San Francisco.
I know. This is so cool. But I mean, every time it senses, so I guess the way they charge, like you swipe a card or like that, and it's time and use.
Oh.
So you you're in there for a few minutes, you get charged cents or whatever with that, but it's like however long you're in there, it automatically charges your card for using it. And it has this whole self-cleaning automation. And every time you come in, it's like a spotless, clean public toilet.
Great.
That'd be so nice.
Yes. And that's a great example of like evolving technology. Like, I mean, if I was walking in San Francisco and came across a public toilet that I knew was going to end up costing me $1.75 for me to go in there and go pee or whatever, but I knew I'm walking into a completely
hell yeah,
absolutely, hell yes, I'm all for that.
The worst bathroom? I remember some of the worst bathrooms I've ever used.
I remember this.
I'm looking for it.
Yeah, we went to what's that beach in Santa Cruz? We were going to do a bonfire. Seabrighton? Is that the right one?
Seabright?
Yeah. So
Twin Lakes.
Maybe. Yeah. So public bathrooms at beaches are the worst. They're always the worst.
Yeah.
I walk in there, I'm like, what is going on in here?
Needles and stuff, and it's dirty.
Bro, don't get me started with the needles
terrible.
And all that.
Hey, so earlier you were talking about robot suicide. You reminded me of a statistic that I read. Bro, check this out.
It's a great name for a band, I think.
That is an indie band.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Check out this statistic. You guys are going to trip over this. So in 2016, Canada legalized assisted suicide. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So they legalized euthanasia.
Yeah, what is happening with that?
Well, hold on. California, I didn't know this. California also legalized it in 2016. I didn't know this. So apparently in California, euthanasia was legalized. By the way, Canada and in California
are like buddies.
California and Canada have roughly the same population. Okay. Since 2016, how many people do you think have gone through assisted suicide in California?
Oh, I don't even have a guess.
893.
Okay, not very many.
Canada, what do you think the number is?
Probably similar.
They were pushing that as an option, like for all kinds of stuff, like
double.
Depression.
Double
over 50,000.
Whoa,
over 50,000.
That is so alarming.
Whoa.
Do you know that in Canada? I don't know if they did this or they're going to do this. They're going to put mental illness under the list of things.
I know. I heard that, dude. That's scary, sad.
So in other words, if you want to commit suicide because you're mentally ill, then they'll let you.
Dude, what's
help you.
wrong?
Look at this.
I don't know.
Look at Doug found it right now.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Let's help people by offing them.
Oh, I know, right?
Well, it saves them money. It does. Just remember that.
Exactly.
Oh, and then it flips the toilet around?
Yes, you have a fresh new one, and the backside is cleaning the other one, like throw. And look at the floor.
Oh, wow.
Floor gets blasted.
Boom.
Just hoping it doesn't turn on accident when you're in there. Oh, like when
You're in the other room.
You ever get the toilet flush on you on accident while you're in the bathroom? It just flushes. You're like, stop.
What if it goes into the other person? Yeah. Like,
I mean, I just,
hey, what are you doing in here? I don't know.
we've had, like, none of this is like crazy technology. It's like, of course, finally someone figured out to make something like this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's kind of cool. I didn't see that, how they designed them to kind of fit in with,
Or what you could do as a prank, Justin, is you could poo in the clean side. So when it turns, it
rotates it. Hey, I didn't do that.
What the hell? That's not clean.
Yeah.
stupid, dude.
What's going on? But hey, so that assisted suicide thing, isn't that crazy?
That's
50,000?
honestly, that's really depressing.
It's they say
How
it's
are people
humane,
not
but
up
I
in
don't-
arms in that?
Huh?
How come you don't see more people up in arms about that? That seems like a
I
really
think there are. They're just like there's a lot of suppression and censorship, and it's a different. Obviously, free speech isn't the same as it is here. There.
Yeah, I mean the mental illness one is the part that scares me. It's like,
Is there a situation at all that you guys see the positive side of having that as a possibility? Like, is there a scenario that you can paint that you go like, okay, I could see, because a lot of times this is what we do, right? We latch on to. I mean, this is going to be controversial, but I feel the same way about
I don't
abortion.
see any value in it.
Abortion. We always like to point out, like, what if someone was raped by
so
someone?
you're talking about the extremes.
Yeah, you said a very extreme percentages on how people argue the justification of something that we do, right?
Yeah.
Is there a scenario with that I'm like,
Well, I think we already do that, right? If you're brain dead or whatever, then they'll
They kind of leave it into your caregivers.
yeah, but I don't know,
Discretion.
because what they're doing. So
you know
here's
much
how-
about that, Doug?
I don't. But, like brain dead, they're on life support
That's the-
potentially.
yes,
So if you
life
unplug
support.
the machine, they would have gone anyway. So
Right.
it's a little bit different.
That's
That
a
is
little different.
Yeah, euthanasia is different.
Well, here's what's crazy to me. If you're terminal, you can have them kill you. But if you're terminal and you want to try experimental drugs that are not approved, they won't
That's
let
funny
you.
to me. That's
What?
stupid.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no, it doesn't make.
So you
any
should at least
sense.
be able to do that. Like, if you have the opportunity to
They'll say, "Oh no, sorry, you
kill
can't
yourself,
use that drug."
I
'cause
should
it's too
also be
dangerous."
able to use any sort of like crazy. Like,
Yes.
Yeah. Let me
if
try
you're
some
already,
of this.
if your doctor's like, listen, Adam, you have 3 months to live. You should have access to whatever the hell you want, either palliatively because you just want to feel better, or experimental that might help you because you're already terminal.
Imagine
but you
that-
can't do that because it's too dangerous.
It's
but they'll
weird.
kill
It's
you?
weird though, because you would think you would think science wants that, because then
They could test them.
Yeah, they could test them. It's just like, hey, these people are opting to do this, and we've now had 1,000 people try this thing, and actually,
Dude,
this many.
don't go down the rabbit hole of this because I did, and there's videos of people where they would record themselves. I've been in so much pain, and so now I'm finally going to do this, and they're like doing like a video journal about themselves about to go through this assisted suicide. It breaks your heart.
Oh my God, I cannot watch that.
It completely breaks
Oh
your
my God, I
heart,
couldn't watch that.
for some of these things. But the mental illness one's crazy to me because what qualifies? Like, if you want to kill yourself and you do it repeatedly, maybe not successfully, does that qualify you? And then what do? Just say, here, this next time you do it, we'll do it for you successfly.
You
How
just
does that qualify as treatment?
reminded me of something. Did you guys see? I sent this over to the thread. I didn't see any of you guys comment on this, and I was surprised. And maybe you guys figured you didn't watch it. Did you guys know? Did you know about the burying somebody in your yard?
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw that.
That is
So is that real?
Does that
Yes.
check out? Yeah, especially.
yes. I
So
looked
if
into it.
Trump had a
So
relative
supposedly Trump did this with his ex-wife.
So if
or
you
was
get, you have to now. Of course, you can't just bury your dead, your dead relative in your yard. You have to get some kind of
No, that's
jurisdiction.
exactly what. Oh yeah, no. You don't have to get you. If you were to bury a family member in your yard,
But
you
you
can
can't
now call it a cemetery.
But you can't. You'd have to go and apply for that, right? I can't just do that.
yeah, but that's all that you need to
Okay.
have that. I mean, you have.
But then once you do that, they can never bankrupt.
repossess. They can never repossess the property, or so put a lien on it, and you never have to pay property taxes again.
I mean,
So
I
they-
heard Vanilla Ice say this, so I'm a little skeptical.
So that's me too.
Was it Vanilla Ice?
Me too.
That's who it was.
that was Vanilla Ice who said
was
that.
like, it
That-
sounds interesting.
That was enough
but
to
I
send
gotta
me
check
down
this
the
out.
rabbit hole. Everything I read and found out, though, that you have examples of and he gave examples of that where this is true. So if you actually have a relative that you've buried on your property, you then can put the property under basically it's a cemetery.
But there's a process of being able to do that. I imagine if like something happened and oh my God, I lost my whatever, you can't just go bury them in the backyard. They won't let you do that, right? You have to like get it. You'd have to get a certain permit or whatever.
I mean, good luck trying to.
No, it's your property. I feel like you have rights.
I know they won't just give you the body. If someone dies in your care, they'll take the body. You can't just be like, I want the body. What are you going to do with it? None of your business.
Yeah.
You're going to jail. That's what I'm saying. There has to be something. You have to first get your yard.
Yeah, maybe you have to first permit it as a burial site.
Qualifiers, yeah.
You probably have to permit as a burial site before. Okay, and then after that, you can
flower bed.
But once you do it, it's like, I mean, I talked to my mom last night about this. So, my mom said,
sell it?
Such a dark
my mom was all for it. My mom was like, hell yes.
She's all for it.
She told me that her and her husband were talking the other day because they have a little bit of land, right? They have like a couple acres and they live up in the country. And she was like, I could totally, I would love to be buried here, And he's like, oh my God, that would be so weird. She's like, really? You think that's weird? And she brought that up to me. This is how this conversation came up. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so funny you bring this up, Mom, because I was just looking at this and I'm like, so you would be open to being buried on one of my properties? Just want to get that clear.
I want you close to me.
Yeah, kidding. But I thought that was extremely fascinating. Yeah. And I guess there's
got to be a process. It can't be that easy.
Yeah, I think you have to have a license to establish a cemetery.
Yeah.
It looks like you can do it. The problem is finding a body.
It's not. Why'd you say
it has to be a family member.
I like how Doug said it's scary too.
You guys. I mean, I'm trying to think of a very close person, but I know I've seen situations where people have had like family buried on their property. They've had property in the family for hundreds of years. They have like 100 acres.
You imagine going over your friend's house, like a regular suburban house, normal backyard.
I know,
like
it's
a bunch of acres, just a normal backyard. So you go back there and there's like a couple of headstones. What's that?
So I
playing football.
I joked about that with my mom because I have my yard's really small. My house where I stay, right? So it's really small, and so I told my mom, I wouldn't put you in this yard, Mom. It's a little too close.
I don't want to go where the dog
getting out of the jacuzzi, and I got to step over her headstone.
People think,
hey, but she was game, so I'm like, I'm doing the homework, so I'll report back because I'm like, that's a hack and a half to like, because I wouldn't. I mean, would you have a problem having your grandpa or in your obviously not your backyard? Well, maybe actually the backyard you have now is pretty huge. Would you not make a little beautiful little floral thing in a bench?
I would. I mean,
I would.
Is there a weird part?
There could be a way to do it.
Yeah. Would you be like, I don't know?
I mean,
I think I'd be all right.
I mean, some people. I mean, obviously, my mom's husband felt that was so weird. I don't think so. I mean, I think if it's a family member of mine that I'm close to, or I would bury you guys in my yard.
You really?
I mean,
I told you, and I would make a cool little thing and everything.
It's not weird after the tax savings.
Yeah,
I'd be happy.
We should actually get Doug. I mean, Doug's going to go first, so we should probably have him sign some paperwork right now.
Don't count on it, man.
You're probably right. The way we're playing this game,
I don't know.
The guy
that hurt his hip bowling.
I found a way to slide that back in.
Hey, real quick, I want to hear about the Japanese football, Justin. You had made a.
Did you hear about this, Adam?
No.
Okay, so the U.S. played Japan recently. American football.
So who played on each
American
side?
football?
Who played though?
So there was actually some ex-pros that were like playing on the American team. Now they got their ass kicked. Not just like a little bit. Like they had their ass kicked. It was like 50-20. I don't remember the score, but it was like a substantial amount.
So the Japanese.
So I have a theory on this.
So here's their excuse first before you have your theory. So they said that they basically they're kind of like blaming it to the amount of time they spent like actually practicing together. And it was like, I don't know, they said maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks they had where they really had time to gel as a team. Meanwhile, they did have like a pretty substantial amount of talent on US team. Either way, like, I know like Japan, they've obviously trained together and they're a unit and they've been doing this for, I'm sure it was like over decades. They've been like all kind of leading up to this point where they can compete, but still, dude, like we're known, it's American. It's embarrassing.
I mean, Justin, you know this. I mean, so that's exactly what my theory was so this used to happen in the Olympics to us.
Yeah.
So
basketball.
Yeah, we were known for getting our asses kicked.
Yeah.
And yet here we have these superstar basketball players that are our worst guy is better than their best five, but yet we're getting our asses handed to us. But I mean, these guys have also been playing since like high school together. Like they choose a group of people and they develop and they keep them together, and so their team chemistry. And in a sport like football or basketball,
highlights that, right?
That totally highlights that, in my opinion, that you can be way undersized, under speed, under strength. strength and
They were
still
way
win
undersized.
because especially football, and you know this, probably the most strategic game played.
Biggest team sport there is.
Biggest
in
team
terms
sport.
of having to organize everything and run a play like effectively and execute it.
Yeah,
So,
but still.
it hurt my soul a little bit.
Those
Just a
don't
little
look
bit.
like pro USA guys, though. I'll tell you
They
that right now.
don't.
That looks like high school USA
Yeah.
guys.
20U.
It's what?
It's 20U. So basically only under 20.
Under 20. Okay.
Okay. I don't. What?
Apparently Canada.
Why were they
So
highlighting?
that Justin, that
Okay,
okay.
that makes
So
a lot more
do you
sense,
remember?
because I saw
So
some-
Japan used to whoop our ass in, you know this, in baseball.
Yeah.
All the minor
Little League,
Little
World
League baseball.
Series. Yeah.
They still do, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they whoop our ass in like these team sports where they keep the kids together and they train them, and so this is not surprising to me at all.
I saw it on the Pat McAfee show, and then he was kind of highlighting. I think he was like, I don't know why he was bringing up certain like pro athletes that they're comparing. I don't know, maybe they're related to them. Then I don't
did you
know.
hear Pat McAfee? Did you hear what happened with him with Caitlin Clark? He's getting sued.
No,
Oh, you didn't hear about
I
this?
didn't hear about that.
So look up Caitlin Clark sues Pat McAfee. Right, McAfee is how you say it.
McAfee. I think.
McAfee, sorry. Pat McAfee gets sued by Caitlin Clark. You guys know who Caitlin Clark is.
Yeah.
So supposedly he was talking all kinds of shit about her, right? Like just fun. I mean, his show's poking
He
fun,
is,
doing
yeah,
stuff like that.
he's-
And he's kind of jabbing about
a
like
fun
that.
shit
And she
talker.
called him out to play one-on-one. And so and I guess he had slandered her pretty hard that the deal was, I'm not going to come after you for defamation, but then you need to play me one-on-one. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And it has to be recorded and you got to play it on your show. So that I guess they signed a contract or made a deal. So I guess she whooped the pants off of him.
Really?
And he wouldn't,
amazing.
and he hasn't aired it. And
No
he hasn't played it. Yeah. Supposedly she came out like 5-0 on him right away. It was like the first of 21 or something. And supposedly she whooped the pants off of him, and he hasn't put it on his show. And that was the
So
deal.
who is that guy? Is he a good basketball player?
No, he's probably
Play
one of the
football.
most popular commentators in sports. He's a really popular, and I mean, I like his show. He's got a great
He's
show.
fu- he's
Here
a
it is right
funny
here.
guy.
Can you play it for the guys so the guys can hear? So it's a breakdown right there. This is great.
Dude, I did not
Listen to
know
this.
that.
I just found this out. These are so funny you went this way because I just heard this. Can you play it so the guys can hear it? Start it over.
Snippets from this have been deleted, but apparently Clark absolutely
Grab
manhandled
this. Bring it to the back.
Caitlin Clark is suing Pat McAfee, and it's not for the reason you're probably thinking. After McAfee used interesting word choice to talk about Caitlin Clark, he swiftly went and apologized to her, and she said it was okay, but she wanted to play him in one-on-one. And we're not sure if McAfee accepted this because he thought it would be good content or if he thought it was the only way to get Clark to accept his apology and sweep this under the rug, but he did accept it, and they filmed the game. Snippets from this have been deleted, but apparently Clark absolutely manhandled McAfee, and the whole thing was taped to air as a Pat McAfee show segment. The game was to 21, and it was make it, take it, and Clark apparently drained 3 threes in a row to start the game, and she ended up beating him 21-5. People said it didn't even look like she was trying at the end. Now, this probably would have been one of the more viral segments if they'd chosen to air this on the McAfee show, but apparently Pat got really upset and said they're not showing it anywhere. And this is where the lawsuit comes into play. Clark seems to be over the comments that McAfee made, but she had agreed in the contract when she went to play the game that it would be taped and aired on the Pat McAfee show. And now apparently she's suing him for breach of contract, so we might still get to see that video.
You know, he's better off airing it. He should have aired it right out the gate.
I mean, it's interesting he didn't because this guy, the commentator,
now he looks like he lost and that he's
a sore loser.
yeah, he's
and I mean, you're in the business of getting eyeballs. I would think that would go viral.
Yeah.
Of course.
It would go to her name is already top of the news right
You gotta
now.
lean into the joke.
That's how I would too. I would take it. Oh man, I talked some
gotta take
shit.
it
I got
on
my
the
ass
chin.
whooped, and it's like, yeah. But I would ride the wave. So interesting that he chose not to. He must have been really embarrassed. Must have been really trying, or looked really bad for you to be like that embarrassed not play. Isn't that funny?
Oh,
That's really
Yeah,
funny,
yeah,
dude.
That's awesome. We have a shout out for today?
What we got right now? What are we? We have something going on. Oh, the NCI event that we have.
Okay.
So that's in, what is it, Doug? Is it in September? What do we have it in?
Let me look that up here.
That should be up.
Mindpumpnci.com is the web address, and I'll get you
Yeah.
the exact dates of that.
It's September 12th, 13th.
It's a deep dive. It's a deep dive on business. By the way, NCI has been doing this for a really long time, have a tremendous amount of success with entrepreneurs that are especially building in the health and fitness space, nutrition coaching, where you come in, they do a deep dive on your business. Almost everybody that's gone through this has seen significant increase in their revenue the next month to 2 months that they go back home from the stuff. We're partnering up with NCI, and we're making it like a mind pump event and business deep dive. So we're having 2 days,
It's a small group.
Yeah,
and we're getting into your business and everything.
5
All of
people
us.
on one day, 5 people on another day. We're also doing a cool private chef is coming to our Truckee house. So you'll be invited to the Truckee house. Private chef going to serve you there. Get a workout with the boys and I, and or if you want to go do a round of golf on the PGA course. So it's a PGA course that we're on. And Jason Phillips, obviously a big golfer. And so
it's at mindpumpnci.com that you can sign up.
Yeah.
And that's the 12th, 13th, and 14th, depending on which group you're in.
And then they also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe NCI has like very similar. What's that called? Where you have the pay thing where they can actually pay it over a 12-month period of time.
Right, like an afterpay.
Yeah, I think they work with an afterpay. So if it, for somebody who wants to invest in it, but it's a lot of money for them, I know they have the option to where they can pay that over the next few months. And like I said, from NCI's track record, I know everybody that's done these deep dives have seen that return on their business like immediately afterwards. So it's a definite, and then we all get to hang out together. So it's kind of a win all the way around.
By now, you probably know that probiotics are useful. They've been shown in studies to improve digestion, and some people reduce anxiety and depression. They help with skin. They help you assimilate nutrients. Anyway, there's a company called Seed. This is the world's best probiotic, hands down. Everybody else is worse, way worse. This is the only one that I take. Go check them out. Go to seed.com/mindpump. Use the code 25mindpump. Get 25% off your first month's order of Seed's Daily Symbiotic. All right, back to the show.
First question is from Kath NCC. How do you determine that you've spent enough time building muscle and will have something to reveal once you go into a deficit? Do you base it on time spent building or weight gain or something else?
Yeah, something else. I would base this off of where your maintenance calories are. One of the best ways to determine if you can go into a cut is if you have room to go into a cut, because your maintenance calories are high enough to allow you to cut your calories and end up in a place that's sustainable. So regardless how much muscle you think you have or don't have, if your maintenance is, let's say, 1,800 calories and you're going to cut down to 1,200 calories to get yourself lean, that's an unsustainable place for most people. So I would almost always my maintenance calories that'll determine that when it comes to clients.
Well, the reason why that's such a good way to, Sal, to do this, and I agree with you, is that if you have increased your caloric intake, say by 500 calories a day to 1,000 calories more a day, you built muscle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. Like if you are adding 500 to 1,000 calories a day and you're not putting body fat on, that's going to work. It went to work. It went to build, and you got stronger. Like, so that's a good sign that, hey, I've added some muscle and it's a good amount that I'm actually eating this many calories and I have room to cut. Now let's reveal the hard work that I've done. Yeah. Now I'm going to go into a cut. But there is obviously, there's always going to be the individual variance of what that looks like, because it's going to be a spectrum, right? That might be somebody building up to, 500 more calories a day. It could be somebody building up to 2,000 more calories a day. And it could be even smaller than that. And also keep in mind this, you have muscle under there no matter what. Even if you were like your body carries around, and if you get lean enough, you will reveal that muscle.
Yeah, but don't determine it though based off how much muscle you think you have. It's like, look at your calories and then go from a cut from there, and then ask yourself, is that maintainable? So okay, I'm at 2,500 calories. That's my maintenance. If I go down to 2,000 or 1,800 calories, is that something I can maintain? Is that sustainable? If the answer is yes, and you're being honest with yourself, then I would say go into the cut. If the answer is no, that's kind of low. That's really hard to maintain. And you play this game with yourself. Well, I'll bump them up afterwards or whatever. You should probably wait. That's the most important factor to consider. All the other stuff doesn't make isn't nearly as important as what I just said.
Well, don't you? I guess from hearing you guys kind of describe this a lot to people in terms of like kind of pressing that amount of calories a bit more in terms of like where it's almost uncomfortable to that level, so that way you do have that room. You do have that, so you can cut back down, and it's like, oh well, this is easy to maintain, and it's going to keep me pretty lean and sustainable at this point.
That's the basic generic advice that I used to use for my clients, was just let's get to a place where you get to say to me,
where you're happy to cut food out.
Yeah, and that's why too I say there's such a large individual variance here, because that could be for someone 3,000 calories. 3,000 calories might seem like, oh my God, that's so much.
You're just like pushing it every day.
Yeah, other people it might take 4,500 to 5,000 to be there. So there's going to be a range, but where I want to get you is that it's becoming almost a chore to get enough calories, and Sal always says this really well in the context of modern life. Right. Obviously, that would not be advantageous, because Mark Sisson is someone who actually argues the opposite point.
Eating less is better.
Yes, he's such a pro. Eat low. And
longevity wise,
and longevity,
and he's right.
he is right. Yeah. But why I like the way Sal positions it, he's like, in the context of the modern world, that's just so, like, most people don't have his discipline to eat that 1,500 calories.
So buffer yourself with a fast
Exactly. So how about we build a bunch of muscle that gives you that metabolic flexibility, and then if you want to try and eat lower calories, sustainable. But at least now, if you don't and you mess up or decide to go out and have a couple glasses of wine or have some dessert, it doesn't feel like it sticks right to you and goes to body fat. It actually gets metabolized and used because you've built this roaring metabolism.
And you negate, not all, but a lot of the negative effects that come from eating quote unquote unhealthy food when you're burning more than you're eating. And so it just buffers you better. So when you talk about the average person, then it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, obviously if you could go the rest of your life really disciplined and eat low calories forever and you're fine or whatever, that's fine. But I don't know very many people that can do that.
Right.
Next question is from Avery Phillips 12. Can you reverse diet after a show without putting on insane amounts of fat?
100% you can.
But let's be clear though. You're supposed to gain some body fat after a show.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
This is why this is so difficult, by the way, is if you just got done with a show, you're in a unhealthy range of body fat percentage, unless you did a terrible job at getting ready for the show. If you did it right, you got down to shredded, which is 3 to 6% probably on the high end for most people that are on stage, right? Which is an unhealthy place to keep your body fat for a long time. So there is an amount of body fat you should put back on. There's also the psychological part that messes with you, because what almost everybody does is you refeed afterwards. And what you find out, regardless of the calorie choices, you can eat whatever you want, you actually kind of look better and feel better for like the next 3, 4, 5 days of doing this. And it kind of...
Because it takes a second for your body to turn it into body fat.
It does.
So instead, you're just fed.
Yeah.
Muscles are full.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can get away with this.
Yes.
No.
And you see all these crazy positive, I've told you guys before, my most anabolic feeling and best feeling I've ever felt is a post-show workout after I've refed. Like it's just there's no amount of steroids I've ever taken in my life that compares to that feeling of like just being depleted for 6 to 8 weeks, then to refeed the body just responds. And so there's this like, oh my God, I come out of the show and I eat a ton. I ate, pie and pizza and In-N-Out, and I have all these calories. I eat 6,000-7,000 calories 2-3 days in a row. And I'm seeing like, I look better, I feel better, I'm performing better in the gym. And then you start going in your head like, oh, I'll just keep doing this. Yeah. And that's where people get in trouble. And so really what it looks like coming out of a show is almost an absolute mirror to what it looked like going into the show.
It's just backwards.
But backwards.
You decelerate. That's
right. So it's like, and I include it because I would use a little bit of cardio towards the end. So that's the first thing that I would reintroduce that to where I'm walking a certain amount of steps or whatever like that. And then I peel off of that. And then I add a little bit more calories, go for a week or two, then add a little bit more calories. And you just stair step your way. And the reason why you don't hear me giving a number like 200 or 500, it really depends on the person and how many calories you intake. And that should be a really good way to look at it, is just whatever your mirror to what your cut looks like, you should reverse out that way. And if you do that, you'll end up out of the cut. If you do a really good job, you'll get all the way back up to where you were calories, and you'll be the leanest you've ever been because you will put very little body fat on, and you'll have got the calories back up.
But you have to, and you should gain some body fat. And I have to say that because I've had people say, well, I want to kind of keep looking like this. No, that's not a good thing. Not good for you. You will gain some body fat. The problem is when you let off, you go completely off the rails. And this is where you see people gain 20, 30 pounds in the 2 months post-show. The reason why you want to maintain discipline post-show, like what Adam is saying, is because you need discipline post-show. You actually need more discipline post-show than you do going into a show, because going into a show, you have the show itself maintaining discipline. I have this show, I'm going to be on stage. That's going to keep me going. When you're done with the show, you don't have that, like, people are going to look at me. I got to be on stage. And so without that and without any guardrails, people fly way. It's super common for people to fly way off. So you want to have a diet after the show like you did going in. It's just backing out.
Next question is from a man with a mission. What's your take on exercise snacks? Besides pull-ups and push-ups, what other exercises are great to do during your breaks?
Ooh, I'm glad you picked this.
I love how they call
so we could tear
this
apart.
Everybody.
No, not only that, this is also an example of bastardizing trigger sessions.
Yeah.
Like the idea of a trigger session is not during your workouts.
Yeah.
It's not intermittently in your breaks when you should be resting, recovering, and preparing for your next set.
Yeah.
It's done on off days when you're not training in the gym. And this is an example. And boy, I'm glad you picked this because I wonder how many people have done this to
there's two ways of looking at this. One of them is doing short kind of workouts on a daily basis, focused on maybe an exercise or technique that you want to get better at. I like that. The other way would be to use it as a way to facilitate recovery and to amplify your hard workouts, which is what a trigger session is. So,
none of those ways is this way, though, right?
it doesn't sound like
no,
it.
no, it's not. It's,
Well,
this person
unless-
is saying between your breaks of lifting.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it says of lifting or if it's in between breaks of like working, like at work. If I'm interpreting it that way, I would say that this is a smart approach.
Yeah.
Because now you're adding in like some of these exercises, you can hone in on the skill of it by doing it more frequently.
Oh, okay. So I totally read that. I'm reading you that there. I'm glad you made that point.
Well, I don't
because-
know. Yeah, it could be.
No,
the
I
way
mean,
you thought it too.
now that I reread it,
I think you're right, Justin.
Yeah, you could be right. This could be somebody who is saying, during my work breaks, I've got 10, 15 minutes. What are some good exercise snacks? That makes more sense if
I
you're a
love that.
listener. I love that too. So I
Yeah.
want to make that clear. I understood that as breaks in your workout.
So they're
like
commising.
Yeah, your rest periods and you're trying to do exercises.
That's not resting. I think we do need to be
So
clear about
I
that.
apologize to the listener if I misread that.
No, I think during breaks, like work breaks and stuff, I love when people practice exercises.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get stronger. It's a great way to get better at the exercise. It's great.
It's a great discipline.
It's a great way to move. The key is, though, the intensity can't be high. So you're not going to do a 10-minute all-out workout. You're doing 10 minutes of an exercise at moderate intensity at best, and you're practicing it frequently. So using pull-ups as an example, let's say you could do 10 pull-ups. Let's say that's the most you could do. Then what you would do is during your breaks, let's say you had 3 breaks at work, you would go and do like 4 pull-ups.
Yeah.
So nowhere near 10. You would do something like 4 or 5. And you would just practice it on a regular basis. And what that'll do is over time, you'll get stronger and stronger and stronger to where you could do 6, 7, and 8 at the same intensity that it took to do the 4
So
or 5.
this person is though asking like, what are other exercises besides those that we would consider doing?
Body weight squats, lunges.
You could get a rubber band,
You
doing
could
like
use
pull aparts.
You could do banded exercises. You could do hip thrusts on the floor. You could do all kinds of core exercises
Lunges.
like planks. Mhm.
I think too, if this was my client, I would probably be encouraging mobility stuff here. If I've now taught you the discipline of using these exercise snacks and breaks, I've never trained a client who couldn't use more mobility drills in their life. And yes, it will help build muscle in the long term. You may not feel it or see it the same as trigger sessions or doing these pull-ups and see gains in the pull-ups as much from the mobility stuff. But as far as overall benefiting your posture, your range of motion, your joint health, longevity of training, I would probably really encourage this client and I would pick 1 or 2 mobility moves that probably would improve their squat ability or their overhead pressing ability, and say, hey, you got good at the pull up and push up thing. We've been doing that really well. Let's start to incorporate like little mobility drills throughout your day, and let's see what that does for your training program. That's kind of probably where I would push somebody like this and allow the foundational days of training, because that's all programmed really well, and your diet to take care of most of the muscle and strength stuff that we're going to do. I would try and encourage you to go that direction, even though you could do what you're doing.
Next question is from T Mora 626. I've tried for 2 years to build the inner part of my bicep. Nothing seems to work. When my arms are down to their sides, the part of the bicep that rests against my body looks awful. I work out 4 times a week, could lose 8 to 10 pounds, but nothing drastic. I just hate that part of my arms, and I cover them up even in this heat. Help. I want to go sleeveless.
But the outside's good.
Yeah, but that's why I'm trying. I'm like, is that because the separation? Is that what they're asking?
I don't know. So the bicep does have 2 heads. I want to say that aside from very large muscle groups let me back up. Muscles have attachments. There's typically 2 attachments, but oftentimes there's those multiple attachments. When the muscle contracts, it brings those 2 attachments closer together. So think of a muscle squeezing and pulling both sides together. If for most muscles, it's a waste of time to try to work one head over the other. Like the bicep itself, the attachments are so close. Yeah, you're not going to be able to do long head,
performing like the same
short
action.
head, exercise. Now the chest is different. The chest has an attachment on the sternum, and it goes all the way up and down the sternum. So you can work lower, middle, or upper chest. The back is a bunch of muscle in the back. You can kind of work on the delts, right? The rear delt you can activate versus the front delt. When it comes to biceps, this is kind of a waste of time. Now I could say incline curls because it stretches puts the bicep in a stretch, but you're not gonna see one head develop over the other. This is largely due to genetics and how your bicep develops on its own. So your best bet for biceps, period, is do exercises where your elbow's in different positions. An exercise where your elbow's in front of your body, like a preacher curl. One where your elbow's next to your body, like let's say a barbell curl. And then maybe one where your elbow's behind your body, like a lying incline curl. And both heads are going to get activated.
In other words, nothing is going to give you the look that you're looking for more than just building and developing your biceps. Right. And so the question really should be, what are some better things? Like in a perfect world, again, if you were a client, I'd be asking you, what do you currently do for your biceps? And then I would look for the opportunity there. And that might be what Sal said, changing elbow positioning. That might be introducing an exercise you never do, like reverse grip pull-ups, but doing it for your biceps. Right. That might be something an exercise you've never incorporated in there, or you never train low reps for biceps, or you never train supersets with biceps. So I would search in your current programming on what does your training for your arms look like, and then where is the opportunity for me to do, and I wouldn't get focused on, to Sal's point of, I heard that this exercise works this part of it. It's like, no, it's like, let's look at the way you've trained your biceps and let's look at something you're not addressing or doing. That is going to help develop the bicep. That will help give the overall look that you're looking for, because genetics play the biggest role in like the shape or the look of a muscle.
It does. Now, again, there are exceptions like the chest. Like you can angle a bar and use the fibers of the lower chest, the middle part of the chest, or the upper chest. But that's because it's got this, if you look at someone's sternum, like it attaches all along the sternum. So if it pulls in this direction, it's lower. If it pulls in this direction, it's middle. If it pulls in this direction, it's upper. But with the biceps, they're so close to each other, and they just do the same thing.
That's true, Sal, with the chest, but I would still give the same advice, right? Sure. Like if somebody came to me, right, and they said, Adam, I want to build my upper chest. And I'm like, oh, are you doing incline press? And they're like, that's all I do. Or I do incline fly, incline press. Then I would actually go, well, let's go do some decline flies. I would actually go the opposite direction. Not because, and the reason why that is
just overall development.
Because overall development of the chest is going to give them that look, even though technically doing decline flies is for the bottom part of the chest.
And also, too, you get people who are asking about muscle shape who haven't really built a lot of muscle to begin with. So I want to work out and I want my upper chest to look like this. And you're like, how long have you been lifting?
Right. Yeah, go build the chest.
Just go get strong.
Go build the bicep. Like that is going to give, the genetics play such a role in the way our abs look and the way our chest sits.
Biceps, you see that like sort of softball version of the bicep versus the
big long
head. Yeah, so it's genetics are huge in that.
Big one. Look, if you like our show, go to mindpumpfree.com. We have a free guide that teaches you how to squat like a pro. It's How to Squat Like a Pro guide. That's what it's called. Mindpumpfree.com. You can also find us on social media. Justin is on Instagram at mindpumpjustin. I'm on Instagram at mindpumpdestefano, and Adam is on Instagram at mindpumpadam.